Welcome to Reason Workshop Class 18, covering the Dr. OctoRex. We'll start out and go over a tour of the OctoRex and Rex files and recycle. Then we'll go through getting sounds into the OctoRex, then synth parameters of the OctoRex, then slice edit mode, then sequencing the OctoRex, then pattern to track and editing MIDI notes, then playing and performing the OctoRex, then OctoRex connections, and finally a test. So to start out, this is the OctoRex, and it basically is a loop player that allows you to load in 8 different loops and sequence them on the fly. You can press those different buttons and start and cue different loops. All of this can be automated. The run starts and stops it. You can transpose everything, a global transpose. There's the volume, and on these settings you can choose how those loops are cued, whether cueing the next bar, the next beat, or the next 16th note. You can also open up the remote programmer where you can individually load the slices instead of just through the banks. And there's also all kinds of synth parameters and editing that can be done on it. So let's start out and just go over what the Rex file format really is all about. A lot of loops are at different tempos, and they might not fit directly into your song's tempo. Let's look at the program that creates these, called Recycle, also by the company Propellerhead. We'll load in this drum loop and set the sensitivity to snap to the individual transients. Adjust the tempo, and it will just change how those slices are played. But it keeps the information about the distance of those slices, and you can save that now as a Rex file. Using the OctoRex, you can open those up. So to start out, you can go to the Browse Patch. Within the Reason Factory Sound Bank, there's a whole bunch of categories of Dr. OctoRex patches, and they contain several different loops already preloaded in them. And if you're in run mode, you'll hear it back at your project tempo, which is a great way to audition loops. There's all different kinds of sounds that are in here: bass sounds, instrument sounds, drums, percussion. And so all of those are Dr. OctoRex patches. If you open up the programmer, now we can get into the individual loops. In the Reason Factory Sound Bank, below the Dr. OctoRex patches, you have Dr. OctoRex drum loops, instrument loops, and percussion loops. So let's start out and go into the OctoRex drum loops. And we can sort of customize a OctoRex patch now by loading in a bunch of loops that we like. When I'm triggering this, I can select either for the new loop to start to the next bar, or for it to be cued for the next beat or the next 16th note. This allows you to cue different loops to become something entirely new. Now let's go into the synth parameters of the OctoRex. So to start out, you have the amp envelope parameters. So we can first start to mess with the attack by turning that up. Now let's go to decay. So you'll notice there's a sharp drop-off. Let's use another loop to show you some of the other parameters of this. So start out, another thing here is the pitch. You can completely adjust the pitch of the OctoRex, and again, all this can be automated. So let's go an octave lower, or an octave higher. And you can assign some things to the mod wheel and velocity. Now over here, we have a filter you can turn on. And adjust the filter frequency as you turn up the resonance. There's a whole bunch of different kinds. We have the notch filter, the high pass, bandpass, low pass filter. You can also turn on the filter envelope, so you can hear that filter open and close as the groove is playing. Let's go over the LFO now. By turning the amount up on the LFO, that engages it. Now we can assign it, so the destination of the LFO is to the filter here. And there's a whole bunch of different wave types. There's just a ramp down. This is a square wave. This is a random wave type, or another random wave. And you can also assign the LFO to control the pan. You can hear it pan out to the right and left. Or you can have the LFO control the pitch if you assign it to the oscillator. Let's go on to slice edit mode. So this section where you have the graphic of the actual slices has a whole bunch of parameters you can affect. You can select the slice either by twisting the knob around or by clicking directly on the display. Then there's also the pitch. So I might take this slice right here and move the pitch knob up to select transpose of just that one slice. So you can hear that drop right there. Or volume, pan, decay, reverse, filter frequency, alternate, and output, which we'll talk about more in detail. Now you can also turn on this slice edit button. If you would rather draw with a pencil, you move the mouse over the display, it turns into a pencil. You can draw all kinds of controller information on the loop. That was pitch. Now let's go to pan. Now let's draw some volume drops. Now let's go to decay. Now let's put this last part in reverse. Let's also turn on the filter frequency. So you have to turn up the resonance on the filter, and then you can draw a little bit of filter frequency changes. Let's go now to sequencing the OctoRex. So you'll notice that a little LED pops up next to each pad on the OctoRex. That tells you that loop is synced with the MIDI playback. So first of all, I want to show you how you can sequence playback. If you're recording, you can just click on any of the pads and it will select the next one. And all of that information is recorded in here. Okay, it shows you the pattern select. You can also, of course, play those on the keys. E0 is the first loop. F0 is the second loop. F sharp 0 is the next loop. G is the next one. G sharp is the next loop. Then A. Then B flat. And finally B. D0 is start for run, and D#0 is stop. Now let's go over copying pattern to track. This is a very useful thing. Before I do that, I'm going to add some drum compression onto the mix channel here. Now, opening up the remote editor, I can just hit that 2-track button for each loop. Now I have every loop copied down here, and now I want to turn off the enable playback on the front of the Rex. And of course you could copy it, you could change the tempo, and you could make them longer if you wanted to, you know, for like a verse, chorus, bridge kind of format. Or you can also edit. So here I'm going to select that first loop, and I'll hit half to make it last twice as long, go in half time basically. And I'll go to the individual slices and move them around to create an entirely new groove. So I'll have 2 kicks and then move that hi-hat around and add an additional snare. A lot of times I hold down Option when I'm moving those around if I want to copy. So we've mangled it into something completely different. Now, another thing you can do is playing and performing with the OctoRex. So here's the main groove, and each slice corresponds to C1 all the way up, depending on how many slices there are in your regroove. So it's already spread out throughout all the keys. So I can turn on the click and play something in on my keyboard. Okay. Now all those individual slices are here as MIDI information. I can select that, quantize it, edit that, move certain things around. And because these are slices of a 2-channel drum beat, you'll hear a lot of instruments are happening at the same time. A lot of kicks also have hi-hat in them. So here I'm moving around some of the kick drums that don't have hi-hat. Another thing you can do is turn the release all the way up so that the sample lasts for the entire duration that it's supposed to, regardless of what the MIDI information tells it. Another thing you can do is select alternate. So the 2 snares are exactly the same, so I want to have some variation in here. You can get some interesting random effects this way. Let's go through a few OctoRex connections that I commonly will do. And the first thing with this knob over here, you can select the output. So I'm going to put all the kick drums to be on output 1 and 2, and all the snare drums to be 3 and 4, and then I'll create 2 mix channels. And we'll call this one Octo Snare, and the second one we'll call Octo Kick. And now I'll flip the rack around by pressing Tab and connect those outputs. So you can see they're all now on their own individual mix channels. This way I can put like specific compression and effects on just the kick and just the snares. Now let's try using the OctoRex gate output for additional CV control. So I'll have a basic redrum groove going, just kick and snare. I'm going to create an OctoRex and go into the percussion folder and select the darbuka. A lot of people also call this a doumbek. But I'll just take the gate output on the back of the OctoRex and plug that into the gate input of redrum channel 8. So the rhythm of this OctoRex is now triggering the rhythm of that hi-hat pattern.